free mini lesson on the British school system, brought to you by toplondonschools.com. It's for parents who want to find the best education for their young child. Investing in private education is a major financial commitment, and we encourage you to attend any school you're considering. Every family is different, and the decision should be based on many factors. That includes academic ability, but is not limited to that. The academic year in the UK begins in September and includes 3 terms, but most schools offer mid-year admissions. Fee-paying schools are called private schools or independent schools, and these terms are interchangeable. Only a little over 6% of the UK population attends private schools, so not a large number. Whether this is an advantage or disadvantage is a personal choice, but the best private schools achieve the highest admission rates to top universities, including Oxford and Cambridge. Prep, short for preparatory, and pre-prep schools are private junior schools for children aged 7 to 13 or 3 to 7, respectively. They prepare students for entry into independent secondary schools. The entrance exam is called Common Entrance and is taken in the spring semester of the last year of prep school. Increasingly, public schools are setting their own exam, usually taken a year in advance, and if the child is successful, he or she will take the CE exam. If your child receives a scholarship to an independent secondary school, the exam will take place earlier than the actual CE exam. If your child does not receive the scholarship, but his or her grades are good enough to be admitted, he or she will not have to repeat the exam, but will be given a place without a scholarship. Private senior high school starts at age 11 for girls or 13 for boys. The most exclusive private schools are confusingly called private schools. They are very expensive and usually require students to live there full-time. These schools are known as boarding schools. They may be co-educational or monogamous. And there is a little bit of variety in some of the information mentioned, in particular when it comes to the actual dates in which children attend the individual schools, because that depends also on whether they have entered, for example, mid-year instead of in September. State schools achieve excellent results. State schools in the UK are funded by the government, not through tuition fees or endowments, and they do not have non-profit status. There are several types of state schools. Elementary schools for children aged 5 to 11, secondary schools for children aged 11 to 18. Parents simply apply to the municipality and their child will attend the school closest to home. However, some cities have selective secondary schools called grammar schools. In addition to Greater London, which has an excellent grammar school called Tiffin's, for example, but many others as well, there are grammar schools in other counties or areas near London, such as Kent and Buckinghamshire. These schools admit children who have passed an examination, the 11 plus, at the age of 10. They are always single-sex schools. In the UK, there is also a good selection of schools that will admit you based on your religion called faith schools. Passing the 11 plus exam is a requirement for entry to the country's grammar schools. But note, many parents in the UK send their children to tutors years before the exam to prepare them. Even the brightest children may not be able to keep up with students who have spent their Saturdays working through thousands of exam papers. Academies. Academies are run by trusts and overseen by central rather than local government. They have more influence over teachers' finances, curriculum salaries, and working conditions than schools run by local authorities. The government argues that this leads to higher standards because principals have more power. They have more leeway to innovate. State boarding schools provide free education and charge only for accommodation. State boarding schools can be grammar schools or academies. Some are free schools and some are run by local authorities. To reiterate, state grammar schools still take academic entrance exams. State academy boarding schools are still bound by the admissions rules for state schools in the UK. State boarding schools give priority to children with special boarding needs and assess the suitability of children for boarding, such as those with disabilities. State boarding schools, yes, they exist, offer many of the benefits of private boarding schools, but at a fraction of the cost. If you want your child to attend boarding school but cannot afford the fees for public school, state boarding schools are much cheaper, between £10,000 and £16,000 a year in boarding fees. They interview potential students, which other state schools are not allowed to do. These schools are certainly not the size of independent boarding schools, so physically they may be a bit shabbier, but academically some of them are excellent. Some offer both day students and boarders. Advantages and disadvantages of private schools and independent schools. No matter how much you spend, each type of school has its advantages and disadvantages. So it really pays to think about the school system in the UK. Whether you dislike monogamous schools, dislike boarding schools, or want to send 3 children to the same school, it's all doable with a little planning and knowledge. If you do not have time to plan, there's still plenty of options. Firstly, you need to be very honest about your child's abilities. There's no point in enrolling them in an extremely challenging exam if they're not able to perform well in it. You do not want your children to be the bottom of the class. Need more information? Sign up with us or visit our website for free hints and tips. You can also receive more freebies directly from us. Alternatively, we're there for you with education advice, or you could take our online course.